Wall Street was a great experience. I learned so much, and a lot of that I take forward with me to real estate. But a few things. One, I wanted to make a change and do something new. Two, I really wanted to be entrepreneurial and work to build something meaningful, something more meaningful than working a desk job at somebody else's company.
Lionshare Bookkeeping believes the key to generating wealth is understanding where it comes from and where it needs to go. They provide bookkeeping and financial coaching exclusively to real estate investors, focusing on cash flow, strategy, and action. Go to lionsharebookkeeping.com/apartments to connect with them now. This is your daily real estate syndication show. I am your host, Whitney Sewell. Well, we have a series of shows for you over the next few days that I know you are going to enjoy. You're going to learn a lot, no matter what stage in this business you are in. Our guest today he came from many years on Wall Street, and he learned so much from there that he's going to share with us that's helped him in commercial real estate. But also he's going to talk about his transition into commercial real estate and how maybe he wishes he had done it a little differently. He's going to share that with you. In case you are getting started, you're going to want to hear that. He also talks about, first hires compared to hires he just recently made and how he looked at those, how he afforded them. Then we get into deal sourcing. And then we get into broker relationships. I mean, how they're finding deals. And he goes into detail. And then finally, we also talk about the economy, the market. What is he looking at? How is he finding this information? What's changed in his underwriting? Man, I wish I had heard many of these things a long time ago, right? And I know that you're going to learn a lot. Whether you're a passive investor or operator, you're going to learn a lot from these next few days. His name is Craig Berger. He founded Avid Realty Partners in 2015 after spending over a decade on Wall Street as a multi-award-winning equity research analyst. The firm's portfolio has grown meaningfully in recent years and includes acquisitions of over 1,450 apartments, totaling more than $210 million in acquisition value in targeted growth market assets across the U.S., in addition to even a few hotels and net lease assets. So Craig's done a number of different things in real estate, but they're growing quickly, as you are going to hear. But he provided some great insight through this series. I hope you'll stick around for all 3 days. If you're involved in this business in any way, I know you're going to learn a lot. Craig, welcome to the show. Honored to have you on and get to know you a little better. I know we have crossed paths numerous times at different events, and it's been neat to hear more about your business. And so I'm looking forward to doing this series with you, and so listeners can learn more about you as well and learn from you. But first, Craig, tell us a little bit about what your kind of business you're in, what you're doing, and then let's talk about how you got there. What was before real estate?
Awesome. Whitney, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And you've done so many podcasts, so honored to spend some time with you. In terms of who I am, well, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I spent 12 years on Wall Street as an equities analyst, writing research and providing advice. That was fun. And I guess after you do things long enough, sometimes you want to make a change also. Today, I'm a multifamily guy. We've acquired about 2,000 units. We've sold off a chunk of those units, and we're intently focused on growing the platform, hiring, scaling, and trying to make lemonade in 2023.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Hiring, scaling, and the listeners always want to know about those things. But, you 12 years on Wall Street. Wow. And then making a switch to commercial real estate, specifically multifamily. What caused you to switch? Let's talk about, switching from Wall Street, being so focused on Wall Street, right? I mean, a career there for 12 years. And then, just complete pivot to commercial real estate. Tell us about that.
Good question. Sometimes when you do something, you just get super focused and you get like tunnel vision and you can't see anything else that's really going on. And, when you work 14 hours a day trying to be successful, you can get caught up in that. But look, Wall Street was a great experience. I learned so much, and a lot of that I take forward with me to real estate. But a few things. One, I wanted to make a change and do something new. Two, I really wanted to be entrepreneurial and work to build something meaningful, something more meaningful than working a desk job at somebody else's company. Not that there's anything wrong with that either. Three, the business that I was in Wall Street was changing and morphing and shrinking and sort of going away, becoming less important. And four, I really wanted to take control of my life, my future, my destiny, And as part of that, do something where I wouldn't be replaced by a computer.
Love that. That's forward thinking.
That was just a few of my thoughts, but it's been an incredible journey filled with a lot of challenges. And had I known then what I know now, I don't know, I might have gone a different route.
Is that right? So it's been that bad, huh? Being in multifamily, it hadn't been the change that you were looking for, or the meaningful part, maybe, or
no, it's actually great. I'm just thinking back on this journey. It's been tremendous. I'd say I didn't make my transition well. I didn't do it the right way. And I think, having maybe going to work for a large firm with established procedures and processes and market presence would have been helpful. But, after spending almost 20 years working for other people, I didn't want to do it that way anymore. So my bad.
So what would you tell somebody listening right now to, even in those shoes, say they've been doing this career 10, 12 years, and they're going to jump into commercial real estate? Sounds like, you've had some thought about how you made that transition. You say you didn't do it the right way. What would you tell them?
Well, I guess I'd say find a community of like-minded people to join. There's a lot of different mastermind groups out there. There's a lot of different communities out there that are a mix of education plus co-sponsorship and bring you up in a community with support and resources. I'd say definitely pursue that. I'd say get as smart and as educated as you can while you have a desk job, while you're making a salary. Hold on to that paycheck and make as much progress and get as smart as possible while you're doing that. Maybe you don't work 10 or 12 hours for your company anymore. Maybe you're only working 6 hours a day and getting by and spending 4 or 6 hours a day on some of your own activities. I don't know if it's ethical to say that or not, but there's a risk management benefit to getting a paycheck, and that's just reality. And then third, if you do decide you're ready to make a change, going to work for a larger, more established company, I think is helpful to getting experience, sort of achieving personal and professional credentials in the space and so on. So just a few thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, that's incredible advice. Even you're talking about the transition, maybe lessening your hours at your day job so you can work a little more hours. I would say sometimes there are, your supervisor may even be okay with you cutting back some hours, right? Especially maybe if they think they're going into a recession, they may be looking for people to do that, right? And so it may be a great time to think about that.
Absolutely. Look, I don't really support the quiet quitting thing. I know during COVID, some people, especially in tech or engineers or coders, might have 2 or 3 jobs. But, as someone who worked 14 hours a day for other people's companies for 15 years, maybe work a little less and spend a little time on yourself.
Yeah, incredible. No doubt, with your experience and desire to do something meaningful, taking this transition, pivoting this way, you could have gone a lot of different routes, started different kinds of businesses, or even something, your own business in that same line of work, potentially. So why commercial real estate?
Well, I did try a few different things and explored various avenues. What I eventually got to was that, even if you just do fix and flip homes on a small scale, you can create and build a path forward for yourself. I ultimately felt like real estate was something that I could do on my own, where I had a 50-50 chance of survival. And those odds were better than, starting my own tech startup or better than some of the other things that I might do on my own. I did consider going to work for a hedge fund, ultimately passed on that, wanted to try some different experiences, get some different skill sets, but that's a good career path forward for people that were in my position previously. And it's just, that's life, right? You make choices and take different paths forward and give it a go. But ultimately, I was just really looking to hopefully survive and like I said, build something meaningful, which takes time.
What about some lessons or takeaways from your previous job that you were able to move into real estate? How did that help you?
Wow. being on Wall Street, I think has been incredibly helpful for me as I work to build a real estate business. So a few things. One, I had the good fortune of living and breathing the stock market and the economic cycles. Right? Everything is a cycle, even though this cycle was a monster upcycle from 2009 all the way to 2022. Maybe we'll even have a soft landing here. Really keeping in mind that everything is a cycle is super important. Reading those tea leaves. I had the opportunity to study formal risk management from traders and institutional investors. I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with Fortune 500 C-level executives when we were out co-marketing to our hedge fund and mutual fund, my clients, their investors / bosses. And these are just sort of, things that you pick up over a decade plus of being on the street. Obviously got to do a lot of deep dive analyses and ultimately developed sort of an institutional mindset. So if I was just starting out fix and flipping at 23 years old, I wouldn't have the same institutional mindset, checks and balances, process control type of thoughts that I've had after spending 12 years at various banks, big banks, little banks, and so on.
Yeah, no doubt, some great experience. I think that you learn that you can move forward into commercial real estate, and there's many other avenues that you could have taken that it probably wouldn't have helped you as much. But I think you're probably grateful to have some of that now. And I want to get into your thoughts about the economy and some of that, especially through this series at some point. But you mentioned earlier, you're hiring, scaling, you're growing, and you're pushing that, really hard. Speak to maybe your first couple hires. I get that question often, like, Whitney, who was your first hire? Why did you hire that position? And maybe thinking through the order of hires, but maybe you can, speak to maybe a little bit about your hiring process. We don't have time to go into maybe depth about hiring, but I'd love to know who was your first hire, because I get that question all the time. And maybe how did you find some of your best people?
Perfect. Let's see. My first hires, I really hired on Upwork.com because my resources were limited.
Yeah.
I had to stretch my limited resources as far as possible. Most of my money was in my deals. Does that ever really change? I'm not sure. But, my first hire was someone who could help with admin and paperwork stuff, someone who could underwrite deals and opportunities for me and help with any and all tasks that I needed. Importantly, someone who's really trustworthy, ethical, honest, and there to support me in whatever it is we're doing, any task that's required, sort of a jack of all trades with the ability to learn the analytical side of the business from me. And that was sort of my first hire. And, you do have to sort of, to find a superstar, you've got to really have multiple encounters and work through some folks that aren't superstars. And it's just the reality of that process.
I appreciate you being real about that. People say, I don't want to go through the trouble because it probably won't work out. And then I have to hire something. I'm like, well, the faster you get started, the faster you'll find that person, because it probably won't be the first person you hire. But I appreciate just the reality too around, hey, I used Upwork. I also used Upwork a lot to get so many things done that I didn't have time to do. I was also working full time while it seemed like I was working another second full-time job trying to get a real estate business started, and I had to have some help. Right. And so you said, the admin, paperwork, but then you also mentioned like underwriting deals. Was that the same person? Could you find somebody that kind of had some of those skills that did both of those things for you?
Yeah. So, there are so many talented people on Upwork. There's millions of people on the platform. You've obviously got, more expensively priced domestic US based folks. You've got, less expensively priced international folks. I did hire some task-based people, in the Philippines, virtual assistant types of folks to, help with this task or that task. But this really first hire was someone who's full-time, shoulder to shoulder in the trenches with me, understood the potential upside, whether they were in another country or not. And so, yeah, I did find someone to underwrite deals and do all of that. I trained that person. person was with me for 2 or 3 years. Then I sort of hired a replacement person for that role. And 3 years later, that person's still with me and a critical part of the team. And like I said, you're going to try different things. Obviously, you've got task-based engagements, and then you've got that sort of full-time 10, 12 hours a day, shoulder to shoulder in the trenches person. And like I've trained that person who's with me now helps me with deal closings, which is a huge and heavy lift, underwriting deals, loan compliance, taxes compliance, property tax, paperwork. It's just a never ending barrage of admin tasks and whatnot when you own deals. So can't live without that person at this point.
That's right. I can completely relate to that. What about, now as you continue to scale, I mean, like 2,000 units now, obviously, you've had some traction. You all have done a lot of deals. What's the thought, or what's the motor behind the scaling now? What's pushing you all? What's driving you all to grow?
Well, we exited 3 deals in early 2022.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a long road. And also you have to know when to sell high, buy low, sell high. Prices were really high in, second half 21 and early 22. And we, not by mistake, but we tried to sell as much as we could at high prices. So with that, we had more corporate resources to invest, and we had more track record to go out and build the business around. So I sort of think of hires as sort of what tier of hire, right? Is it really a C-level executive? Is it a mid-level executive? Is it more of a junior analyst type of hire? So, low, medium, high. Lately, we've hired a president, we've hired a chief operating officer, and we've hired a chief financial officer. And, those are sort of 3 senior positions. I'm all in on this business, pedal to the metal. The reason that we're hiring seasoned professionals with, significant prior real estate experience with REITs or with GE Capital or with other large operating competitors is because we want to go out and raise institutional capital. And institutions want to invest in organizations that have personnel infrastructure, redundancy, risk management, folks that have done it before, folks that have raised meaningful capital before or run 10,000 unit operations. And so that's really our goal. Our goal is to hire the best people we can at this point in time, leverage our track record, and go out and raise meaningful amounts of institutional and high net worth capital, because I think, the next 12 to 15 months is going to present some really unique opportunities in the marketplace, and we want to be positioned to pounce on those.
Love that. That's a great place to end this segment, because I want the listeners to know, hey, the next segment we're going to talk about deal sourcing, and I'm going to twist Craig's arm to tell us a little more about what he's expecting over the next 12 months. Craig, thank you so much. I look forward to our discussion tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.